President Trump is attempting to tighten the economic stranglehold on Iran, choking off Iran's crucial oil revenue by blockading Iranian ports. Trump is ordering the blockade in response to peace talks stalling.
We understand the situation better than anybody, and Iran's in very bad shape. And just so you understand, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. They still want it, and they made that clear the other night. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
While the Strait has only seen limited traffic since the war started, Iranian vessels have been moving through it, bringing in $200 million a day in revenue. Iran is also reportedly charging ships as much as $2 million to use the Strait as a toll. American warships set to begin enforcing the blockade in a little more than 2 hours. U.S. Central Command says that blockade will cover all ships traveling to and from Iranian ports. Ship tracking sites report 2 tankers linked to Iran, one carrying oil products and the other loaded with diesel, sailed out of the Strait ahead of the deadline this morning. Now, there have been a number of key issues that prompted those peace talks to stall over the weekend, and there's no indication that talks will even resume. Let's bring in Janice Stein, the founding director of the Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy, who is with us now. Janice, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, David.
We are in a 2-week temporary ceasefire, one that appears to be holding, but the search for a permanent one seems to be stalled. What happens now with these two sides seemingly very far apart?
Well, we're on to the next stage, in a sense, the blockade, as you just said, David. And a blockade is an act of war. During the ceasefire, there is now a new act of war, which is a blockade. It doesn't look like the kind of intense firing in which civilians are victimized that we saw during those 6 weeks, but it is an act of war, David.
I want to go through the mechanics of how the Americans will do this. We know they have warships near the Persian Gulf, or perhaps in it right now, and others that are further afield. It is very challenging. What happens if it's a Chinese vessel, for instance, that they try to stop?
This is really complicated, David, and it sounds easy. And people are saying, well, why didn't they do that instead of the aerial campaign? It's very, very messy. First of all, the president changed within a few hours. First of all, it was a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Now it's just a blockade of Iranian ports. So ships that visit Iranian ports, those are easy to track. But what if they stop in a port on Saudi Arabia next, or Bahrain? Are they the object of, stop, hold, and seize? That's what it is. Where do you do it? Do you do it inside the Strait itself, which exposes you to fire by Iran, or do you do it standing back when they exit the Straits, and in effect, you're further out of range? And as you just said, David, Chinese tankers loaded with oil. China buys a lot of oil from Iran and needs Iranian oil. What happens if a Chinese tanker is in the Strait, exit, carrying Iranian oil? Does the U.S. stop a Chinese tanker? That, I think, will be the moment of truth.
Yeah, I mean, what if, as we've seen against the drug cartels, they try to seize it? They put U.S. Marines on a helicopter and land them on that ship and seize it at gunpoint. That becomes a major international incident between two superpowers very quickly.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That is high stakes. Now, I would assume that there are back-channel conversations going on. China and the United States have open channels of communication. The president is slated to go to China in a few weeks. I would assume that there are back-channel communications going on between the national security teams of both countries about how they manage this, because I don't think either the United States or China would want this kind of confrontation. It's so risky. But it leaves the Chinese in a very, very difficult position, frankly. The Chinese put their thumb on the scale to get those talks going in Islamabad over the weekend. They really want a ceasefire because they want and need Iran's oil. So this is the pressure. And the other point is, too, David, this is the pressure point on Iran. Without being able to export its oil, its economy is already in tatters. This will really increase the pressure on Iran. There's no question.
But it is also not only pressure on Iran, it is also on China, which, as you note, so relies on Iranian oil. Does Trump's move to attempt a blockade, whether successful or not, attempting it, does that put pressure on the Iranians to put pressure on the Chinese to put pressure on the Iranians?
Yeah, look, Iran doesn't have a lot of levers to put pressure on China, frankly. China is the superpower. China is the buyer. And China's interests with the United States are far greater than their interests in Iran. It's not inconceivable that China will just wait. In China's stockpiled oil, David, China could wait a week, 2 weeks, and see how this goes at the same time as it uses its diplomatic leverage to still get these parties back to the table. And my hunch is, and that's all it is, because no one knows, that that's likely what we will see. That's not what Iran would want, but that's likely what we'll see, because China does not want to rock its relationship with the United States right now, and neither does the United States want to rock its relationship with China. So this is a dance, a dangerous one.
Absolutely. The question is, where does it end? Where do we go to? And I suppose I would ask you to give me this scenario. Where is there the possibility for this ceasefire to go from temporary to permanent?
So again, if in fact Iran, to really have an impact on Iran's export of oil, that is not a week, that is not 2 weeks, that is several months. But if Iran, this is the maximum pressure. The bombing, although terrible, will not increase the pressure, did not and would not increase the pressure on Iran as much as this will. The president, Ghalibaf, the speaker, and Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, left the door open for further talks. Already, Pakistan is, trying to reconvene. There were good relationships. Look where the relationships are here, David. China, Pakistan, very good communication. Iran, it's not inconceivable that in the wake of this announcement, we see another round of talks. And depending on whose statement you believe when, it's clear that some progress was made. Not enough, and there will have to be further concessions, but some progress was made. So that's the good story I'm telling you, that we get another round of negotiations.
Quite something. All right, Janice, as always,
we'll
very
see.
much appreciated. We will see. We will see. Yeah, it's as you say, a dangerous game, and we're all waiting to see with the oil price shooting up in the meantime. All right, Janice Stein, thanks very much.